Good afternoon, traders and investors. It's Will back here with another one. Today, not a very good day in the markets overall. We got two pieces of bad news and one piece of good news. So we're going to take a look at how this has been affecting all of our major indexes on the day. One of the worst broad market performances that I have seen in a couple weeks, to say the least. So we're going to take a look at our major indexes. We're going to also take a look at our major tech names and see how they stand after our daily bounces yesterday only lasted for a day and the weekly consolidation continues. All right. And we're also lastly going to take a look at my portfolio where I had, yes, the worst day in my portfolio all year as every single company I owned got hit fairly hard today. So we'll take a look at that. Had to actually cut some losses, which is a rare event for me after some fundamental things had changed in my thesis. All right, so let's keep an eye on everything today. We're going to get right into it right now. So what happened on the market today, guys? I want to take a look at the heat map right here. You can see SPY down 1.16%, QQQ down 1.06%, and everything pretty much in the red. If you take a look here at my growth list, you will see that almost everything on my growth list here is red, except for a few names barely staying green. And here on the value list, which is also fairly rare, almost every single value name that I track, both in Canada and the US, has been down today, getting hit absolutely hard. So today was a major market day in which you saw money leaving the market. You never like to see all major sectors hitting the lows at the same time. Definitely have not seen that in a while. Now, what happened, guys? So if we look into it here real quick, this CNBC article covers it pretty well. Dow slides more than 300 points, breaking a 3-day win streak as bank names tumble. Now, a couple things today, right? So financial stocks in the US weakened Tuesday. Shares of JP Morgan and Wells Fargo dropped 2%. Bank of America dropped 3%. So what happened is we got another warning for potential downgrades, but this time not on small and medium banks, this time on the big boys. So JP Morgan and Bank of America and Wells Fargo were targeted in this report where Fitch warned it may have to downgrade credit rating of dozens of banks, including your bigger names. So obviously financials, a terrible day in terms of performance here today off of that news. As well, we also got some pretty bad investor sentiment here out of China. China reported disappointing economic data and its central bank made a surprise rate cut. Now, China's woes has been front and center here for the past 2-3 weeks as their economic rebound hasn't been as what is expected by analysts. In my opinion, completely normal, right? They're still trying to recover to pre-2020 levels when they had to shut their economy down for the better part of 2.5 years. And now the reopening is not going as planned, even though they are up significantly in terms of economic performance. They're just not back to normal. So it's quite usual here that any negative news will get blown out of proportion as that recovery story comes into question here, right? So that is it pretty much for the China news here. Right, they missed expectations here. Industrial production increased by 3.7% in July from the year earlier period, which is fairly good, but just missed expectations. Retail sales also grew less than expected, and the People's Bank of China lowered their interest rate by 2.5%. Right, so what they were trying to do is they're trying to stimulate their economy by lowering interest rates, right? But it failed to soothe investor concerns and instead only heightened concern about China's struggling real estate market, right? So two negative pieces of bad news. The Fitch, once again, Fitch acting here as a negative catalyst for the markets with potential threats of downgrades to main banks, China economic turmoil. But lastly, today in the US, we got some really good data here. July US retail sales came in higher than expected. Stronger than expected consumer was reported, right? Retail sales increased 0.7% on a month-over-month basis, while economists only had 0.4% increase on the estimate here. So very good, but it's a double-edged sword once again, right? If the retail consumer is doing fairly well and they're spending through this, could we potentially get another little uptick on next month's inflation read, which we've been talking about on the channel for a while? Very possible. So that's what happened in the markets today, guys. So let's cover our major indexes. If you can see here on the heat map here, absolutely brutal day. Nothing was spared, guys. Everything pretty much red on the day here, except for a few exceptions, and NVIDIA actually staying green. On the one-day relative here, guys, you can see broad market decline. This is what you don't want to see, right? I always want to see sector rotation. But when you get a net day like this, where macro negative news events really spike fear in the market, this is what happens. All of your major sectors drop at the same time and nothing was spared. So definitely not a great day on the market. But as we've been talking about, guys, we are still in weekly consolidation. I was talking yesterday about the fact that we need to measure the size of the bounce. Well, the bounce didn't even last 2 days, unfortunately, before we now hit lower lows. So the size of the bounce was key, and unfortunately, the bulls are not able to get it done, which means we are still in weekly consolidation. That was never a question. It was just a question of when we're bulls going to try and set a potential reversal pattern. So all of that has been reset to zero. We are now back to square one. On SPY here today, we lost our level of support, the 444 level, which was previous resistance. We have now lost it on the daily. So what is this shaping up, guys? This is just daily downtrend continuation. So still in weekly consolidation. Your next level to watch out for here, your weekly 12 EMA, very a crucial level at this point, 440.18 roughly is going to be that level for you. But as of now, guys, bears in full control of this daily downtrend, and weekly consolidation continues despite the bulls having a lot of space here to work with. Weekly consolidation does not appear to be concluded just yet, right? Rejecting from our moving averages and now to lower lows. So once again, guys, we have to wait for the bulls to put in an engulfing move on one of these downswings and give themselves enough space to create a daily uptrend, which will lead to your end of weekly consolidation. But as of now, guys, still no sign of that on S&P 500, right? So keep an eye on your 440 level, which is on the weekly 12 EMA here, right? On the daily, you do have supports down here. 438 is your next area to watch. QQQ, same concept. Even though QQQ traded a bit of an inside candle today in relation to yesterday's trading, still in the midst of daily downtrend potentially resuming, right? So daily downtrend is obvious. We were just looking for the size of this bounce. Bulls not able to get it done, right? So your next level, 364, this low here is going to be crucial. If we flush this tomorrow, daily downtrend continues and weekly consolidation is still underway, right? So bulls with still a ton of space to be working with here, but we're getting towards a few of the areas that you don't want to lose. 12 EMA has not been lost since your banking crisis, right? So pretty much 5 months they have not lost this 12 EMA. Consolidation definitely underway on this. So we're going to take this one day at a time. Obviously, this level is crucial for the bulls to maintain. But if in the event we drop lower, 357 is the area you need to watch out for. We're still defending the 12 EMA here. So the next few days on this market are crucial. But once again, guys, if you want the bulls to turn this around, eventually they will have to engulf one of these downswings here, create enough space to make the upside daily uptrend change. XLF financials, very bad day in light of the news, right? So we were consolidating here, kind of holding sideways. Bears were unable to flush this 3466. Well, macro news did it for them today. So now, unfortunately, the bulls in a daily confirmed downtrend for the first time pretty much on financials. We weren't able to set it here, tightening range, right? But now daily downtrend is confirmed. So daily downtrend confirmed. Zoom out. What are we looking for? Higher low. Anything above 3260 is going to be your higher low area. Flirting now with the weekly moving averages and my sweet spot in the lower 3390 to about 3350 area. This is the area where I expect bulls to put up a decent amount of support here, right? So just keep an eye on that area. But for now, guys, not looking good, right? Any single bounce from this point is just going to be for a lower high. Anything below there is going to be your lower high on the bounce, right? So bulls with a lot of work to do at this point, guys, still in weekly consolidation. A lot of these indexes now just in weekly consolidation, and we need to be patient. XLV topping out here, right? Double top at your high here. The best you can look out for now at this point, guys, is going to be a daily uptrend confirmation. If they fail that, though, you might end up with a tightening range, right? Bears doing a good job here across all indexes. So if we get a tightening range, would not be surprising to me, right? But we still have a decent amount of support down here. We got the 12 EMA on the daily here, and we do have this 134.50 horizontal support. So we're going to keep an eye on healthcare one day at a time. But for now, not able to push above. We may just get a tightening range on the weekly as well. 132 is the area that you really need to watch out for if we pull back, right? I would like to see a tightening range at worst for this chart. We're going to take things one day at a time. IWM Russell, terrible day on IWM Russell, crashing through our most recent support level here, roughly the 188, 189 level, right? So not a very good day. The daily downtrend continues to be a thing here. So once again, You're going to need the bulls to engulf one of these moves, create enough space to reverse that. But until they do that, guys, we are still in weekly consolidation, coming into our previous resistance, which is now support area, losing the 12 EMA today. So keep in mind, guys, anything above 180.5 is still your weekly higher low. But now bears, we're coming into the danger zone, guys, right? If we pull up the fib on this move, right, we're almost pretty much retracing 50%, actually above 50%, now coming towards your last line of defense, the 618. And the probabilities say that if we pass through the 618, the best thing that you can possibly aspire to is a tightening range. If the bears take back too much of this move, very tough to V-shape, right? You may just end up with a tightening range, consolidation here through the rest of the next couple weeks, and then potentially a further upswing. But you need to start seeing bulls put in a bit of a stop on your growth names here, or else you run the risk of having a tightening range, which could extend this whole range bound period for quite a while here. We were in a nice weekly uptrend, but if we start pulling back too much, guys, the bulls are going to have a tough time of V-shaping this. So we're going to take this one day at a time, but you know, need to see the engulfing move eventually. Until then, we take it one day at a time. Dow Jones also now setting up a daily downtrend confirmed, right? So this is like XLF. We were kind of range bound, bears unable to set the daily downtrend. Well, they did today, right? Lower lows here. So when we're in a daily downtrend, you zoom out once again. Weekly consolidation is still underway on the Dow Jones for the past 3-4 weeks now at this point. Your first area we're targeting here, 12 EMA on the weekly. It's your 34,500 area, the level that was so hard to break out from. So expect the bulls, when we get down here, if we get down here, to put up a decent amount of support, right? So just keep an eye. We're going to look at this every day. Eventually, once again, need to see the bulls engulf and change the daily uptrend so you know that your weekly consolidation is underway. But bulls in control of the weekly time frames, right? So bulls on across all these charts, they control the weeklies still, right? They control the monthlies, they control the weeklies, but now we are in daily downtrends and weekly consolidation. So we're waiting for those pullbacks. Need to be patient with it, guys. All right, so that's it for our indexes. Now over to Bitcoin. Bitcoin still doing a whole lot of nothing today. Crypto as a whole dropping a fairly decent amount today, but Bitcoin really not able to get it done, guys. Still struggling with this area here. And I got a great question on yesterday, whether I was looking into more than Bitcoin here on the channel. Not for the moment, guys, because Bitcoin is your market leader and has been for the better part of this year. So until Bitcoin starts showing some signs and some volatility and some more volume of being alive, it serves no purpose to look at any of these altcoins because they will just be trailing Bitcoin's move. As of now, Bitcoin completely struggling. If we do break down from here, guys, keep an eye out for your 28,500. And on the weekly, obviously, we are still looking for your weekly higher low, but it's getting dangerous now because if we bounce like this, guys, and then set a weekly lower low here, it will be a weekly downtrend. And we haven't had a weekly downtrend since this period right here. So keep an eye on that for Bitcoin. Moving on to big tech here. Big tech, Apple negating its little post-earnings bounce here. So we only really got 2 green days here on Apple and then a further move to the downside. So Apple, don't want to see them flush this 176.62 level here, or you will just reconfirm your daily downtrend here, which will still be just for weekly consolidation. So Apple still in its bottoming process, my sweet spot, 174 down to 170 here. We could pull down into this area, especially if the markets keep struggling here to hold up any gains. So once again on Apple, eventually what you're going to have to see is bulls reverse one of these downswings and create enough space to reverse the daily uptrend. Only at that point will you know that your weekly bounce is underway. But as of now, bears, unfortunately, in full control. Keep an eye. This is my big area of support here. So it stands to argue if the bulls are going to make a move, I would like to see them make it in this area on Apple. But as of now, weekly consolidation is still underway. Bulls with a lot of space still, but we're coming down quick, right? 160 is that weekly higher low. So just keep that in mind, guys. This spot is crucial for Apple. Let's go down to AMD. AMD as well pulling back after yesterday's gains. Ever so slightly, though. Not too bad of a day on AMD, if I do say so myself, but still struggling in this range-bound area. So you need to see the bulls get above to the higher end of this range, set a higher low compared to your low down here, and then make the move to the upside here. But as of now, still trapped in a range. If AMD does start pulling down more, I will be writing options here, 104 down to 100. But as of now, guys, AMD just range bound, right? The one thing you don't want to see them lose is this area right here that they just recaptured yesterday, because that would mean that your monthly consolidation is still not done, right? So we're really looking for the bulls to put an end to this weekly range here and potentially move to the top. But if they can't get it done, we are still just in weekly and monthly consolidation with the bulls in control of the higher time frames, right? So just looking for continued pullbacks on these names. Be patient with it. In my opinion, AMD here is a great purchase for myself, for my own portfolio at these levels. You guys might have your own levels. Now, Amazon pulling back hard today as well. We're not able to get that daily bounce underway, right? So keep an eye on this, guys. If we now flush our 137 area here, it could put us in a daily downtrend. Daily downtrend wouldn't be the worst thing. Why? Because we're just looking for anything above 126.40 to be your weekly higher low. So bulls with a lot of space on the weekly, but need to be careful of the daily. Good support down here, right? Even if we do get a daily downtrend, might just act as support. Then we'll need to see the bulls engulf and reset that daily uptrend to set the weekly higher lows. Common theme, guys. We're looking for the weekly higher lows on all these names. They have a lot of space to work with. But until the bulls can reverse these daily time frames here, the bears control our short-term time frames here, right? So keep an eye on this for Amazon, right? Now down to Google here. Google also not with that great of a day. Google as well. You can see that Google, unlike Amazon, right? If I go back to Amazon's chart here, Amazon can still save this with a tightening range. But we're getting pretty close to these low areas right here. Don't want to set the daily downtrend. Google actually saved it, right? So they are now in a tightening range. Obviously, if Google loses your 128 level here, 128 level of support, you will be in a daily downtrend as well. Google right now still just fighting to set your weekly bull flag here for potential further upside. This is just weekly consolidation. However, it's sideways instead of straight down. Like a lot of names, anything above 116 is just going to be your weekly higher low. Obviously, good area of support for Google right now, still your 128 area, but that is going to be crucial. Google's either going to break one way or the other, right? If they break to the downside, it's okay, guys. Weekly consolidation still with a lot of space above 116. And if we break to the upside, obviously, you're going to the 140 area. Onto Meta here, right? Meta obviously having a bad day as well, down 1.38%. Meta bounce still not juicy enough for me, right? So daily downtrend is still a thing. If we crack these lows, 298, we will just be in a continuation of the daily downtrend. Meta still searching for that weekly higher low. Key level right here is going to be your 289. This line right here, which lines up with your 12 EMA. Don't want to see the bears come all the way back down here because they could then set up for a weekly downtrend, right? Or at best case scenario for the bulls, a tightening range at the top here. So we're going to take this one day at a time, but eventually, like the other charts, need to see the bulls put in enough of an engulfing move, create the space, and reverse these trends to the upside here. So Meta still with a couple dollars to work with here, right? Tonight, about $10 to work with here, but it's getting fairly close. Microsoft, daily downtrend still underway here, right? So bulls not able to come up. I was looking for, if Microsoft bulls can break 328, they create enough space here to potentially set a daily higher low and resume. But Microsoft not getting it done today here, not dropping as much as other names here, but still not the best day on Microsoft. Keep an eye. If we flush 319 here, just going to be a continuation of your daily downtrend for what? For weekly consolidation, right? Anything above 275 is still just your weekly higher low, but Microsoft quickly approaching here, my potential sweet spot, 308 pretty much, all the way down to 285 Microsoft. Why? Has been a very good area of support in the past, previous resistance as well, right? So I expect there to be a reaction here from the bulls. Microsoft obviously in monthly consolidation at this point. So if they do take the month of August to come down and early September, I definitely would not be surprised. Bulls still with a decent amount of space to work with here, but like I've been saying, guys, need to engulf one of these moves to set the daily uptrend, and then you will know that your weekly consolidation is most likely over. But then the next step will be, how high can the weekly bounce be, right? If the bulls don't bounce high enough on the weekly and set the weekly downtrend, then you know your monthly consolidation is still underway, right? So a lot of things to do here for the bulls. But step number one on all of these names is to reverse these daily downtrends, and you will only see these things happen one day at a time, okay? NVIDIA pulling slightly back here from the high of the day, right? Red candle on a green day, but still holding up fairly decent as opposed to the rest of our names. NVIDIA, one of the only names on the entire market here that was actually up today, right? So decent job by NVIDIA bulls working with a lot of space, right? Now, the bulls need to set the higher low. Anything above 404 is going to be for your daily higher low for potential continuation to the upside. Keep an eye, NVIDIA with earnings pretty much next week, right? It's going to be a very, very, very big week for NVIDIA next week. So I think that NVIDIA can really go either way. Earnings is either going to make them flush this level or flush the highs to the upside, right? If they flush the lows here next week with earnings, your monthly consolidation will definitely be underway at that point. We will be in weekly consolidation mode if they do flush. But on the opposite side, if the earnings are very good, if we kind of struggle around till earnings here and then earnings push it over, well, then obviously everything is fine, right? But just this is such a key level, guys. I can't stress it enough. It's your weekly higher low. We did a good job of rejecting off it yesterday. Now bulls with enough space to start a daily uptrend, but I don't expect NVIDIA to have that much momentum here prior to earnings, especially in the type of market we're in now where our indexes are in daily downtrends. It's going to be tough for NVIDIA to keep outperforming on a day-by-day basis, but at least they've created enough space yesterday that they can have a few days off to consolidate before a potential rise into earnings, and then earnings will send it either way. And now lastly, Tesla here with a very brutal day to the downside, 3%, right? Daily downtrend on Tesla, guys, is clear as day, right? So daily downtrend just continues to happen. Eventually, Tesla is going to have to put in an engulfing move to set enough space to reverse the daily uptrend to the upside. Now, still in weekly consolidation, guys. The bulls have now lost this 240 weekly higher low. So at this point, guys, on the weekly, and whenever the weekly bounces, I'm potentially expecting a lower high compared to our previous high, and then it remains to see. Can the bulls save it and set a new weekly uptrend, or are we going to flush to lower lows, which means that monthly consolidation is still underway, right? Two very, very different scenarios on Tesla here. We're going to keep an eye on this closely, but if ever we come down in my sweet spot area, obviously I want to get as close to 210 as possible. Why? Because it's our previous little resistance is now going to be support area here. Tesla, in my opinion, going to represent some decent value down here at 210, especially in relation with their most recent earnings and deliveries and expected growth model, right? So we're going to keep a close eye on that. But a lot of names, guys, the MACDs, right? If I go through these MACDs real quick, sorry, guys. If I go through these MACDs on the weekly, right? Notice, weekly MACD cross hasn't happened since January. That's Apple. Amazon obviously going to still look pretty good. Google should also look pretty good still. But look at these, right? Meta, curling. Microsoft, already curled and done, right? So very, very, very notable to me when you get names like this. AMD, right? AMD curled, right? Everything since November, January, February, guys. The MACD, the momentum is not to the upside anymore on these longer time frames, which leads me to believe our weekly consolidation is still underway and may be underway here potentially. I don't want to say this, but it's true. Potentially through September. Q3 is not known as the greatest quarter in terms of seasonality. So we'll take this one day at a time on Tesla here as well. PayPal, one of my stocks, getting absolutely crushed today, 6% to the downside after the news of the CEO yesterday kind of got reiterated today, and people kind of took it one or two ways. Obviously, PayPal, a payment processor, did not get hit. Did not fare well in terms of the negative banking headlines either. So a bit of a double whammy here on PayPal with some company-specific news and also some negative macro news. PayPal coming all the way down here on the day, 59.47. We've almost flushed our 52-week lows. Actually, we did. New 52-week lows on PayPal. So PayPal, unfortunately, still in a monthly downtrend, weekly potential downtrend as well, right? And daily downtrend too. So we really have everything working against us at this point, guys. It's really a shame that PayPal gave all of this back. But at this point, guys, I'm in this one for the longer term growth recovery story, right? It's still a company that I have high conviction in. It's just unfortunate that sometimes these trades don't play out in our favor on the timing that we wanted them to. So PayPal now obviously setting the daily downtrend after earnings. They were about to start their daily bounce and just absolutely got crushed. It reminds me of this right here. Past earnings did almost the same thing, set their daily bounce underway and got crushed to lower lows before recovering, right? So we're going to take this one day at a time on PayPal. But at this point, guys, deep value, right? We have to go back all the way to 2017, which is 6 years ago, when PayPal was making significantly less money on an annual basis. You can only see 2018 here, but 2022, right? So they're almost double the revenue that they had about 6 years ago, and that they're at the same share price, right? PayPal's valuation on a forward PE basis, this is on a retroactive PE basis, right? Trailing 12 months, but on a forward PE basis, PayPal's PE is 10, right? So very decent value in my opinion on this name. But like Warren Buffett likes to say, right? Sometimes these things can stay irrational longer than you can stay solvent or stay in the position or have the high conviction enough to stay in this position. So very unfortunate event for PayPal today. But once again, now the bulls have a lot of work to do, guys. We need to wait for this to bottom out. Then bulls need to put in a decent enough bounce to reverse this exactly how they did right here. Sometimes it takes some time, but that's just the way the cookie crumbles. Palantir lastly, Palantir potentially also setting up your daily bounce. Not big enough here. If we do flush the next few days, it'll be daily down confirmed. Weekly consolidation still underway. Keep an eye. Your 1362 level is crucial for Palantir. If we come down too close to this, the best you can end up getting is potentially a tightening range. But also, if you come down, bounce like this, and to the lows, look, it'll create a head and shoulders pattern, right? You don't want to see that. So Palantir, obviously, crucial areas here coming into play. Keep an eye. Don't want to flush 1490. If you flush 1490, you open the door to the daily downtrend. It will be weekly consolidation further here, and also monthly consolidation will pretty much be underway. Palantir for me, decent buy here in the 13 down to the 12 range. You also have your 200-day EMA down here. I know you guys don't want it to pull back that much, but with what's been going on in markets here and potentially underway for weekly and potentially monthly consolidation on a lot of names, Palantir most likely will not be spared as an outlier despite their very good earnings performance and positive net income. And lastly, guys, my portfolio. Now, before we get into this, I just want to preface it with something, right? Sometimes as a trader, you make trades and you're wrong. And I have no problem admitting that I was wrong on these. I was wrong to take positions on these. Some of these positions were open about 2 weeks, 2.5 weeks ago before the USA credit downgrade. And unfortunately for me, I just caught the wrong end of the market. I was searching for premium. There wasn't that many stocks that I had high conviction on that were offering good premium. So I went with some secondary stocks that I didn't have high conviction in, but that had good technical levels. So I wasn't relying on the fundamentals. I was relying on the technical levels, and that is what I got wrong. So you will see today, guys, that our portfolio dropped pretty much off a cliff, right? 53 down to 40% year to date. Now, key thing here, in terms of a net value of my account, the account only dropped by about 6.7% today, right? So very brutal day considering all the positions I had dropped a lot, namely SE, which had earnings minus 30%. But on a year-to-date basis from where I started, obviously it's down a lot because it's comparing it to all the way back here, right? But on a dollar basis, right, only down under 7%, which is a terrible day, worst day of the entire year for me. And I have no problem showing you guys that. I want to be transparent on the channel. So what did we do, guys? We cut the losses, all right? So we cut the losses on AA and SE as a whole, okay? So I'll go over AA first. AA was a stock that I had conviction on in this area because I found that despite being significantly off all-time highs, these were due to high aluminum prices back in last year in 2021, I know, but I was counting on this support level, longer-term support level, to actually play out. Well, funny for me, it didn't. Monthly downtrend is now reconfirmed, and the lower levels here are all the way down to 17 if we get there. AA, not a great stock fundamentally, and that is my mistake here, right? If you could see the past 5 years, not generating enough profit despite having very good revenue. Their PE is just not that great. Well, you can't even see it anymore because they're negative EPS. But I mean, the valuation on this company is low, but it doesn't mean anything. Their past quarters, they've just been losing money as they continue to invest. at low aluminum prices, even though their sales are high, not turning a profit. So this is one, guys, that I just did not want to hold. I did not feel comfortable owning the stock anymore because fundamentally it was just going against a lot of my rules. And with this technical breakdown here, unfortunately, I just cannot be in this position anymore. So I cut the loss rather than waiting to be able for it to come back and write covered calls. I'd rather just take my loss and move into a stock that I have higher conviction in. This was a stock that I found decent premium on the 2 weeks that I was writing it, and I was counting on the technicals to play up a bit more. But as you can see, guys, ever since I've been assigned, right, we're down here pretty much 15% with, no end in sight, and the positive catalysts for this stock are few and far between. It is not in favor, so I cut the loss. SE, all right, SE is a growth company here from Taiwan, right, or from Singapore, actually. So SE misses earnings targets, plunges 29%. If you guys didn't see this one, can't blame you because not a lot of people know about this stock. If you see, guys, I got assigned up here at $63. I wrote some covered calls in the past 2 weeks, right, which brought my break even. And even prior to earnings, I wrote the 56 calls here. You can see my break even on the screen is 56.44. They had an absolute disaster on earnings today, which changed my fundamental perspective on the company. Not because they dropped 30%, but because of what was said, all right? And let's go over this quickly, right? So what happened here is they shifted away from cost cutting. The reason why I like this company is because kind of like Alibaba, they're a high growth company. They haven't generated any money in the past 5 years, but they were growing steadily. And actually, a few quarters ago, back in Q2 of Q4 of 22 and Q1 of 23, they're actually profitable. So I was confident in this company being able to, now that they were profitable, continue to really focus on continuing to deliver positive net income for the business, even though they're growing at a very fast revenue rate. Well, unfortunately, SE now pivoted away from this, absolutely as a whole, right? So we can see here a cost-cutting overhaul the company started last year that included layoffs and reduced marketing spending led to the first quarterly profit in the first 3 months of 22. But spending on e-commerce has slowed from the boost the company saw from the pandemic. In the past couple quarters, we have not only achieved self-sufficiency, but also demonstrated the profitability of our model and ability to manage fast and significant shifts in operational focus as we see fit. So the chief executive said on a call. What this article doesn't mention as well that I was reading about is the CEO was questioned on this, and he said the words that I did not want to hear. He said, unfortunately, as of now, we are going to focus on growth over profit. And this is after having posted 2 profitable quarters in a row. Now they're going back and they're flip-flopping and they're saying, you know what? Pretty much screw the cost-cutting endeavors and screw the net income. We're going to continue growing no matter the cost. And that's what really killed this company today, right? Very unfortunate. But that is enough for me to pivot my investment thesis to be like, listen, rates are high. They're not making any money. And if now they're going back on their promises of generating net income above everything else, I do not want to be involved in this stock. It's not a US-based stock anyways. It's a Singapore-based stock. They are one of the leaders in internet communication services across all of Southeastern Asia. So not a small company by any standards, but that was enough for me to realize, listen, I made a mistake on this. It was a very big loss here, guys, right? From break even of 56, I even had the 46 puts as well, right? Which ended up being in the money. The stock's trading at 40 today. So there was a $600 loss on this one. And I had to take a $1,600 loss on these shares as well. So altogether, over $2,000 in losses, guys. I had to take it on the chin. Sometimes, as an investor, you are wrong. Once again, I took this trade because although they're growing nicely, I felt that they were going to be able to deliver a profit because that's what they were trying to do. But now the fact that they're pivoting and backstepping away from that, guys, really left a bad taste in my mouth. That's number one. And if I put it on number 2 here, if you see here, they've also now crushed your weekly support level, your monthly support level as well. So now at this point, the monthly uptrend potential is completely lost, right? So when I see monthly downtrends and weekly downtrends reconfirmed, guys, sometimes it's time to reevaluate your investment thesis on a company. I played this company because I thought there was going to be good support in this area here. It was good. There wasn't anything else available on the table at the time. No Apple, no Microsoft, no AMD. So I figured, you know what? Let me take a slight play on this. got assigned on it 2 weeks ago, was doing the best that I could here before earnings to potentially bring back some of that premium, bring my average cost down. But unfortunately, after this earnings, guys, it's just time to face the music, take the loss, and move in and move on, guys. So that's pretty much it. You can see Tesla dropping here as well. Alibaba dropping, not yet under my 90 strike here. Our CSIQs are down as well. Estee Lauder with a terrible day today as well on Estee Lauder. So my leap call is down significantly. PayPal with an absolute destruction of a day today, right? Down over $4 a share pretty much, right? So that's a decent loss on 200 shares. And my banking shares down here, HCAL, my Canadian banking ETF, down a huge amount today as well. So all in all, guys, every single position in this account today got absolutely rinsed, right? Even the Teslas, you can see the 230s are in jeopardy here, you know, of going underwater here. Tesla down to 232, right? So every single position in my account today got absolutely destroyed. I just want to be transparent with you guys. This is the worst day that I've had in this account all year. It was just everything at the same time type of day. And I had to just sit back and take a deep breath, pretty much reevaluate why I was in these positions in the first place, and if it was worth it for me to average down into them and wait for them to come back, or if it was time to move on and figure, you know what, these stocks, I would rather replace that money with something that I have higher conviction in. And that is the moral of the story, guys. I got burned. I unfortunately went not quite truly against my strategy, but I didn't, you know, rule number one is you have to want to own the stock. And although I didn't mind owning the stock on those, I didn't necessarily want to own them, right? They were fairly risky trades, and my mistake was not being patient enough, knowing that daily consolidation was coming. I should have been more patient for better stocks, in my opinion, that I would have wanted, especially our major growth names or even some better value names that are posting regular profits. So that was my mistake I made 2 weeks ago upon being assigned these stocks, trailing them down. And now after reevaluation, I just don't want them. So it's time to take the loss and move on, guys. Can't complain. Still up decently on the year. We're still outperforming SPY, right? We're still outperforming QQQ, but unfortunately just a very negative day for me as a whole. So I hope you guys appreciate the transparency on that. No matter how much experience, guys, I've been doing this for 7 years. The options wheel itself, right? I've been doing for about 7 years here on and off, right? Trading as a whole, been doing it for 10 years. And still sometimes we make these mistakes, guys. The important part is being able to minimize the risk, cut the losses if your investment thesis on a stock changes, and move on to the next trade, okay? So I hope you appreciate the transparency, guys. Not a very good day for me. I hope you guys performed a bit better on the day, even though I know it must have been tough here. So all in all, you know, very, very negative day on the markets, guys, but let's keep our head up here. Even if it's a bad Q3, Q4, I am confident that will be fairly good for the markets here. Now, just a bit of seasonality, inflation issues, and negative macro here, right, with the credit downgrading. So if you guys enjoyed the video, consider liking the video, consider subscribing here if you're new, and if you have any questions, always leave them down for me in the comments, guys. I love you guys. I appreciate your support of the channel so far. I have a lot of fun making these videos, right? And so a lot of great things to come in the future on the channel as well. So take care, guys. I'll see you after the close tomorrow. Peace.